Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCall. DT, proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports truly meets life, and we thank you for being here, listening in all over the world, including in Central New York and obviously all throughout the country, and here on Facebook Live, where you're watching on Facebook.com/live now. DT, all inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Go and get yourself the pumpkin spiced chai. I get mine with almond milk. The DT special is available exclusively at Cafe Kubal, and I'm getting one after the show, so it would behoove you to go get yourself something today, especially to warm up as it's raining here and the weather's cool. I think it's going to be in the 50s today, maybe like 57 or something like that. So warm up with some pumpkin spice chai. We're inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', and our first guest of the day is Nathan Trout. Nate joins us here after playing for Syracuse from 1996 to 1999. If you're around my age of 34, you would call some of those the glory days, because a lot of talented guys, a lot of guys went to the NFL from those teams in the late 90s. So with that being stated, we bring in Nate to talk on the State of the Orange. Mr. Trout, how are we doing today?
Good, Dan. I always appreciate you having me on, and it's always fun to talk Syracuse football with you.
Yeah, I always appreciate, Nate, that you got that southern drawl, that country twang. I like it because it makes me feel like I'm down in Florida right now, and I haven't been down in Florida in a very long time. So, I know that there's people listening to the show going, I love hearing from Nate. So, because they love hearing Nate. You know what I mean? So, much appreciation. How is it down south?
It's good. We're all, I think last time I talked to you, we're pretty much at the height of the COVID, and it's obviously still going on, but we're trying to navigate through it and get the kids, at least from my perspective, get the kids back on the field.
Yeah.
From coaching and playing. They are playing high school football down here. We have a few hiccups with a few programs in the area. But my high school, I've been helping out with the kickers there a little bit over the last couple of years. He actually kicked a 57-yarder the other night, but he's also the starting quarterback. But with that said, they are playing, so that's good. And the kids are back on the field and where I think they need to be personally. So.
Yeah, and it's good to see that they're back on the field playing. Up in Central New York, everything got moved to March 1st. So kids are waiting up here, hoping, patiently anticipating that they'll have a season, and God willing, they will. Obviously, it affects recruiting. It affects some of the kids that have committed. It also affects some kids that are still looking to get offers and get opportunities. So, what can you say to all that, Nate? Because, people need to understand that it's not just the kids want to play football. This is their future. Some of these kids need to get more film out there. Some of them are coming off of an injury. Some of them, these are the last games that they'll ever play when it comes to football. So there's a lot on the line here right now when it comes to either seeing the end of their career or having a continuation of their career when it comes to recruiting and getting out there and coaches, injuries. There's a lot that goes into this that's not just, the kids want to play a sport that they have fun with. This, the sport of football and sports in general mean a lot to people all over the world, and suspending, postponing, getting rid of the seasons all completely, it does a lot to these kids' future, and it also does a lot to their mental health. What can you say about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Dan. And I think that, obviously, at least people I know, they all want the safety of the kids first. And nobody wants to put kids in a harm way at all, especially from a coach standpoint. But at the same time, everything has an adverse effect to it, or, it's a double-edged sword in a sense. And just like you're saying, it hurts a lot of these kids in recruiting. It hurts some of their futures. It doesn't give them the opportunity to get film out there. And on top of that, I would say, like, if my son or daughter was going into college, at this point, I would encourage her to go early and try to enroll in January, or him, and just because of everything going on. And I don't even know if I would support, from a safety perspective, playing a whole 10 to 15 game season in the spring, turning around going to college, and then playing another, 12, 13, 14 games, including practices. That's a lot of games, in a short amount of time for kids, 18, 19-year-old kids, 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, how to go about it because of the situation, that we're in. Do you tell a kid to go out there and play, a season in March, and then, obviously they couldn't early enroll into a school, so that's something to look to, as well, because if you are going to be an early enrollee, you're going to head in January, so, do you just head in early? Some of these kids that have committed, I know some people up here in Central New York, do they just try to enroll in January, head off to college, skip their senior season, and get set for college football for that season? And because things are up in the air, and because, in these last 7 months we realized how quickly something can change, especially things that we never thought could change, it brings to light the whole, if you can get there quicker and you can do it quicker and try and move yourself forward in that respect, why wouldn't you do it in that sense? Because of the fact that, we don't know how things are going to go, and we don't know what's coming around the corner. So, there's that factor of kids saying, you know what, I don't want to chance anything, I don't want to risk anything, I'm just going to move forward. And unfortunately, once you go forward, you can't go back. And I think that, there's going to potentially be some things pulling at the heartstrings, maybe some regret in the future. But ultimately, we know, if I'm an athlete, I don't know when my season's going to be, if my season's going to be. So, I think, unfortunately, when it comes to leaving high school and moving on to college, or, there's a chance that that's going to happen more often than not, just because of the fact that, we are in a very unique situation in this world now, and I don't think kids want to wait, and I don't think they want to lose scholarships or opportunities.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I think even for me, it's been a trying year from a coach perspective. We've discussed in the past the program that I'm running here in Florida, the girls program in soccer, which is one of the top programs in the state as far as winning goes. We have a great program that a guy developed years ago, and I just kind of took it and holding on to the curtails more or less. But with that said, this year we had a lot of plans to get the kids in the weight room over the summer, which we couldn't do because of COVID. Preseason conditioning, which we normally do right now, I kind of just put a halt to it just for the reason that I want to make it to tryouts. If something was to happen this week, well, they're quarantined for 2 weeks, and we don't get in the tryouts next week and get our season going. So it's a precautionary thing just to keep the kids separated as much as possible from each other. And I'm also going to encourage e-learning to kind of keep them alone. But not everyone's good at e-learning, and not everyone's going to be in shape. So it's definitely just trying to go with the flow with it all and expect something to be some kind of hiccups to come in, but try to move forward at the same time.
Yeah, and it does. It takes a lot. You as a coach, and like you said, coaching a soccer team and being one of the top teams in the state and whatnot, what have been your greatest challenges, and what have you really, seen from your perspective as you deal with it firsthand? What have you taken away from what's going on?
I think the biggest thing I feel bad about is my seniors. Honestly, kids that have been waiting to be seniors all these years and run the program and be the leaders of the program, and up to this point not really have that ability to get the kids together and be in groups and things of that nature. But the most trying thing is really just getting them together and trying to come up with ways, one, to follow the rules, and two, to do the things we have to do to be successful. There's a lot of rules in high school sports here around, taking temperatures and documentation and all that stuff. And out of high school, you don't have, a super large staff to handle all that stuff. So you're doing a lot of it on your own, the coaches and I. And just making sure that we document everything possible, that if something was to happen, we have everything in line to keep the kids safe as possible.
Speaking here with Nate Trout, a Syracuse kicker alum from 1996 to 1999, also a current soccer coach down south in the state of Florida, navigating through all this and being a parent. How have you seen it Nate, from all these angles. You're a coach, so in some ways you're a big brother, you're a dad, you're an uncle, you're an extension of the family. You're also a dad, and then on top of all of that, you're a son, you're a friend. I mean, you have so many different angles to look at this, and how this world has been these last few months. How do you navigate it and take care of yourself while also trying to take care of other people's kids and take care of your own?
Well, I think the theme is just to try to be as careful as possible. I haven't, just like a lot of people in the country, I've tried to stay away from my parents as much as possible. I am around kids a lot, so I don't want to expose anybody else to that. I might have seen my parents maybe a couple times over the last 5 months, just like a lot of people. And I think the biggest thing from my perspective is not a division in the family, but the lack of getting together with everyone like we used to. Just to kind of be as cautious as possible. But as far as my own kids, fortunately they've been safe and healthy. I've been fortunate through the whole process as of right now, and just trying to keep my distance just like everyone else and follow the rules. Try to wear a mask when I can and things of that nature. And, you don't know what works and what doesn't work, and I don't think anybody can answer that question, but you just try to follow as much as you can and try to keep your distance and be as safe as you possibly can. I don't really know what else to say about it. It's kind of lingering on. It's been, 6-7 months now.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's just trying to get through it.
I call Corona the ex that just refuses to pick up the last box that they left at your house. That's how I consider it. She's just there, or he's just there, and it's like, just, can you come get your stuff? Like, I've moved on. I'm done. I don't want this memory box of you anymore. I'm gonna throw it in the garbage. So, I just feel like that's where we're at with Rona right now. But hopefully things will continue to get better and move forward. I do believe that there's a God up there watching over everybody, so I think things will get right. As we speak here with Nate Trout this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Nate, let's flip over into football and just what you're seeing. Down in the state of Florida, I know that there's Syracuse alumni, Syracuse football alumni all over the country, and I know that this is a tough time for Syracuse football alumni, and I know that there's frustration. Bring me into what's kind of going on in your mind, what you're seeing, what you're feeling at this point.
Well, I think the biggest thing is just disappointment. First and foremost, I'm bleeding orange all day. So I don't care if the program goes 0-12 for the next 10 years. That's my school. And I'm going to watch them religiously, as I've done since I left there and when I was there and all that stuff. But I think the biggest thing right now is disappointment. You keep reading and hearing and going to games and seeing a lot of encouraging things, and then it just seems like we can't get our wheels underneath of us to keep it rolling forward, whether it's injuries or our offensive line's really struggling right now from injuries and things of that nature. And we're not a big enough program, at least at this point, to have the depth that we need at some of these big schools. So you get a few injuries and it really impacts the whole team. But at the same time, you got to overcome those things. I mean, there's definitely games that I think we should win that we're not winning right now. But at the same time, I think the kids are playing hard. I think the coaches are giving their best effort. But for whatever reason, it's not clicking right now. And unfortunately, we don't look like a very good football team right now. And I don't know if I could have said that over the last 3-4 years. Even on our down times over the last couple of years, I felt like we were a good football team. And right now, we got to turn it around pretty quick.
Yeah, that coming from Nate Trout, alum of Syracuse, former kicker on the team from 1996 to 1999. I agree with you, Nate. I feel like this team, there's a different sense around it, at least when I'm seeing it. When the team struggled and Eric Dungy was the quarterback, there was this big play mentality, right? At any point, he could break it open and do different things. This offense, from the sacks that have been allowed, which I think is somewhere around 20, in 4 games, 14 in the first 2 games. There's that. There's, getting the ball out, on the quarterback side and, being able to have vision and see different things. The defense has done an incredible job, but up against Duke most recently here, they allowed 2 160-yard backs. 2, not 1, 2 guys to get over 160 yards. Had trouble tackling on first contact. So I mean, I think some of this comes down to I don't think there's a lack of talent. I honestly feel like this team is frustrated. I think they're down. I saw the defense kind of go, you know what, to heck with this. Like at the end of the first half, I kind of got a sense from them like that. Like, yeah, we're talented enough to do this, but there was a sense of frustration that I could feel. And then Taj Harris at the end of the game, after Tommy had gone out and it was 3rd and 8, and Rex threw him a pass and he caught it, and they were 5 yards short of the first down. He slammed his hand repeatedly into the turf. He screamed. He took off his helmet. He threw it. He screamed again. I feel that like that really embodied the frustration that's here right now. And it's tough for me to see because A, I've grown up around Syracuse football my whole life. B, I'm a native of Syracuse. C, I've been a broadcaster for almost 18 years, and for 18 years I've covered Syracuse. There's never been a time I haven't. So for me, it's tough to see a guy scream on the sideline, and I think that we have to see it. I think the level of frustration has to be clear, but then you got to get past it. It's one thing to notice the problem, but once you know that there's an issue, you should shift directly into your solution. I don't know what's is going on as far as solution style. Some coaching staffs see problems and they stay stuck in it, pride before the fall, and they just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Definition of insanity, expecting different results. Some coaches look in the mirror and say, you know what, it's not working, and they start to change some things. I don't know which way Dino's going to go, but I know that this team can't continue to move forward like this because it's one thing to see the team struggle. It's another thing to see the team physically be frustrated and publicly. And I think that that's something that kind of, I know for me that hit me on Saturday.
Yeah, and in a sense, this may sound wrong, but I'm encouraged that Taj is showing emotion because he cares about it. And you could have a lot of kids that just don't care. And these kids, sometimes you got to put it in perspective. They're 18, 20-year-olds, and they're kids. They really are. They're out there busting their butts to get Syracuse to the place they got to go. They have a lot of pride in what they're doing. So I know there's a lot of frustration because I've been there. Fortunately, we won a lot of games when I was at Syracuse. But we also had a pretty good quarterback named Don McNabb at the time who could overcome a lot of things or inefficiencies with, the rest of the team just because of his pure talent. With that said, I will say when I was there, Coach Taylor and Coach P, Coach Rogers, the offensive coordinators at the time, I always felt that they changed things up when they needed to. We ran a similar offense, but after Don left, we had Troy Nunes, and then next thing you know, D. Brown is running the triple option or whatever we were running, but D. Brown was a cornerback for us a little bit, just to try to get things going in another direction. My senior year, I think we were 7-1, and then we lost 3 or 4 games in a row. They're changing things up to try to get us back on the tracks. So I always felt like the staff, or my coaches at the time, were able to think outside the box and look at our team and try to decide what we're going to do from there. Now, I'm not saying Babers is not doing that. I got a ton of respect for Coach Babers. I know he cares what he's doing, but at the same time, if we don't have the quarterback or the personnel to fit in the system, then what are we going to do from there?
Yeah, and I think, as we move forward here, with Tommy DeVito's injury, he did go to the hospital. He has, I do know that he will be in a cast here very soon. So as he moves forward and the team moves forward without him on the field, Rex Culpepper, who's from down there in Florida at HB Plant in Tampa,
yeah,
he looks to be the guy. He looks to be the quarterback. Before we go anywhere else with this, let's discuss Rex. Rex has played sparingly in his career at Syracuse. He has been there the longest. He was there when Dungy was there. He has been there with Tommy DeVito being there. The man has gone through cancer treatment. He beat cancer. He got back onto the field. He's an awesome human being. His parents were on the show Survivor. You know, his brother Judge is awesome. I didn't have the chance to meet his sister yet, but knowing that everybody else is a fighter, I'm sure that she is as well. So what can you say about Rex? I mean, you know, there's ups and downs, but what's been your take on him? I know there's not a ton out there about him, but, you know, we can at least speak a little bit to the fact that he is out there and that he fought a battle that was far greater than playing a football game.
Yeah, I think with Rex, the biggest thing that stood out to me is obviously that he overcame cancer, and he's tough-minded, which everyone needs to be in that position.
Yeah.
But at the same time, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but wasn't he moved to tight end at one point?
Yeah, he was actually moved around. I think he was
ago.
on special teams as well, yeah.
Yeah, so you're looking at a kid that's all in with the program, that's willing to do whatever it takes. And I think if anything else he brings, he's going to be tough. He seems like he's a leader. He has the kids' respect. And you know what? Maybe that's a little bit of what Dungy gave us back then. I mean, no one can argue with Dungy's toughness. And he was not a great athlete. He was not a great passer, but the guy won. And he did it through hard determination in a lot of cases. I look at the Florida State game when he's limping around and trying to get the team to win at the end of the game. And I think Rex brings that. Not that Tommy doesn't. Tommy's been good, but, it's unfortunate with the offensive line and things of that nature. But, when people go down, the other people got to step up. And there's one thing I can say about Rex. He's been all in with our program, and that's something I'll always appreciate about him. I don't know him personally, but I have followed his story. I do remember him getting switched around a little bit in positions, but here he is. He's a starting quarterback going into the game and able to see what he can do from there.
Yeah, we take a look at the fact he played in 2017, had 45 completions on 75 attempts, 60% completion percentage, 518 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, was sacked 3 times. In 2019, only attempted 1 pass, and this year is 8 of 19 for 42.1% completion percentage, 113 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. The touchdown, a 69-yard touchdown that went to Taj Harris that gave Syracuse some life and actually gave Syracuse their first touchdown of the season this season here in 2020. So it came from the backup quarterback. I spoke with Dino Babers, and I'll get in more to this later on in the week when I do my pregame show on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time right here on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt and on facebook.com/livenowdt. Inside of the Cafe Q Ball Studios, we'll be doing that. But just to give a little teaser here, and for some people that maybe have seen it, I had the opportunity to speak with Dino, and I asked him about the other quarterbacks. There's a bunch of quarterbacks, on this roster. There's guys that we haven't seen. There's a bunch of freshmen, and there's a redshirt freshman that's on the team. So I asked Dino, I said, what about some of these other guys that you have here on the roster? What can you tell me about these gentlemen? And, for the names, if people don't know them, or just to let you know, freshman Dylan Markowitz from Texas, Jacobian Morgan, freshman from Mississippi, David Summers, a redshirt freshman from Connecticut, as well as Luke McPhail, a freshman from Massachusetts. I asked him about these guys, and I said, Dino, what can you tell me about them? And he said, well, Dan, we don't rep the 3s, the 4s, and the 5s. So, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he's like, we know what they did on high school film. We can go back and look at the tape, but they're not taking reps in practice, so he really doesn't know. That was a giant sense of concern for me, that the head coach doesn't know what bullets he has in the gun. And so I am very concerned as we step forward here that, okay, well, what if Rex gets hurt, God forbid? What if Rex doesn't do well and they got to put somebody else in? The only people that should know what these players can do is this coaching staff and, the high school coaching staffs that they came from, I would say, and their parents and whatnot. What do you think about the fact that when I asked Dino about the rest of the quarterbacks on the roster, he told me in his own way, Dan, I don't really know.
Well, I think, I understand your concern with that, but I think from a player in the program, a lot of the focus is on the top guys, the quarterbacks, and things of that nature. And it's hard to say what a kid's going to do in a faster game. High school is one thing. You get to college, it's a lot faster game. Everything's faster. So mentally and physically, do we know what these kids are capable until they get in that environment? And up to this point, they didn't think they were going to have a chance. But, one thing goes wrong this weekend, one of those kids are going to have an opportunity to get in the game and kind of prove themselves. But you never really know. I can speak from experience, from a kicker's experience, and watching the team over the years I was there, you never really know how a kid's going to respond until they get in the heat of the battle. There was kids that I played with, or men that I played with when I was there, that you look at them at practice and they're like, oh, they're okay, but they get in the game and they're balling out. And then it could be the other way around as well. So you never really know how a kid's going to respond. And you saying what you said about Babers, I think I can understand where he's coming from that sense. Now, I understand your perspective as well. But hopefully these kids are going to get a chance and maybe outperform what maybe the coach's expectations are at this point, and maybe what your expectations are as well. But again, you got to kind of next man up. If Rex happens to go in, God forbid he gets hurt or something like that, then some kid, a young kid, a freshman or whatnot, is going to get thrown in the fire and see what he can do.
Hey, speaking here with Nate Trout, Syracuse Orange Football kicker alum from 96 to 99. I think at this point, it's like, okay, on Monday of game week, you tell me, I don't know what these kids can do. But with Rex being the guy that you have experience with, and everybody else being wide open here, I would like to think that today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and so on and so forth, that you get to understand what these other guys can do. Because whether you know it or you don't right now, you better get to know it this week, because you brought these guys in for a reason. You have 4 quarterbacks on this team that are either a freshman or a redshirt freshman. This is arguably the future. This is the arsenal that you have built. You need to know what they can do. One of the guys left. One of the guys just hopped right out before the season started, headed off to Bowling Green, and said, you know what? He must have saw the writing on the wall, like, hey, I'm not going to play. I don't got a shot here, so I'm going to hop out. So of the guys that are here, it's important not only to take care of them this season and understand who they are this season and where they're going this season, but it's also, you got to build morale on your team. And if you're a coaching staff, you have to give these guys a reason to be here. Now, because listen, and I understand that there's two sides to the world of the transfer portal. But if a kid doesn't feel loved, if they don't feel appreciated, if they don't think that there's a viable chance, if they're basically told, like, hey, when Tommy gets healthy next season, God willing, he's going to be back out there, and no matter what, you're going to be sitting here, no matter what you do this year, that's gonna make a kid really sit there and go, you know what? Do I want to be here? Do I want to try somewhere else? So I think you have to take care of the here and now of these kids, but you also have to give them a reason to stay, because it's extremely easy to transfer. And with everything going on with COVID-19 in this season and all of that, there's the notion that if you do transfer, you don't have to necessarily maybe even wait out the time and whatnot. So I think it's important for Syracuse's staff to very, very delicately handle the 4 quarterbacks that are supposed to be their future.
Yeah, I would agree with that sense. And again, we don't know what these kids can do. Obviously, I would like to think the coaching staff does have an answer for it. But, it's hard to say from the outside. I haven't been around the program. I haven't been up there this year. Obviously, not many people have. You're not really allowed to go to games per se. So it's been a little bit different. But I do like the AD up there a lot. He's a Syracuse guy. I do like Coach Babers. And I'm hoping that, everyone can get together and turn the season around. It's not over. And there's a lot of teams that when I played there, when we were 1-3, we were able to overcome a lot of odds and get on a run. And, you never know what a program can do at that point. We've been in the same position they're in right now, 1-3 or 1-4, and went on a 7 or 8 game streak. Now, granted, we had Don McNabb, who was pretty good. We had several first-round draft picks, several draft picks overall, and we were able to overcome some things. But the state of the program at that time was still positive. And even though we were 1-3, we knew we could go on a run and capture the Big East title and things of that nature. So I'm hoping that the kids understand there that they can turn it around. The season's not over. And hopefully the fans will stay around and support them as much as possible.
That coming from Nate Trout this morning at 1996 and 1999 Syracuse Orange football alum at the kicker position. Nate, you said that one day you wanted, somebody, maybe a family member there, maybe someone in your lineage to take down your record. What do you think about what you were able to do at Syracuse and that Nate Trout is firmly in those record books?
I was fortunate to be there with some great teams, and we scored a lot of points. I think we broke the Big East scoring record 3 years in a row with Don. So there was a lot of extra points, and as of right now, I'm still the anytime leading scorer up there. But Andre's in a great position to break that record, and as he should. He's been a great player for the program. He's an unbelievable kicker. I'm even more impressed with him every time I get a chance to see him. I hope to meet him one day. But if you can't argue, forget how bad everyone thinks the team is at time, but our special teams up there have been phenomenal over the last 20 or 30 years. We've had some great punters come through. Sterling's playing for the Falcons right now, and I'm sure Andre's going to get a chance to play on Sundays. So we've been very fortunate from that aspect. But, again, I'm all orange, so I'm fortunate and blessed to be in the record books up there. I'm fortunate to play for the Syracuse Orange. I love that school. I love that community. And I will support anybody that has a chance to, overtake some records there, even if it's my own.
Yeah, well, right now it is yours, Nate, and yours with good reason. I know you're a humble guy, but I watched you play, and I watched you play in the Dome, and you were about as automatic as they come. So, there's something to be said about that, and a lot of respect to have. You go back to 1997, where you said the team started 1-3. That team that you were on, you defeated Wisconsin, who was ranked 24th in the nation, 34-0 on neutral ground. You were also ranked 17th in the nation. Then you lost to North Carolina State, Oklahoma, and Virginia Tech. And then the team went on to win from there. You went on an 8-0 run. After starting the season 0-3, you went 8-0 from there. Bring me into that and that run, because the team right now is 1-3. And I know it's a totally different team, and I know it's different personnel. But to give some advice on where your mentality was at 1-3, where the team's was, and how did you create an atmosphere that turned things around to an 8-0 record and to finish the season 8-1 after starting 1-3?
Well, I think you were around that time, Dan, and we were at Virginia Tech, and I believe we lost the game 31-3.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Don McNabb was injured. He had a shoulder issue. He was not expected to play in that game. And honestly, coming out of that game, he did play. Coming out of that game, we did not know what direction we were going to head in. Honestly, I remember it clear as day. We thought Don was going to be out a few more weeks. Fortunately, we had Keith Downing and some other quarterbacks at the time that were great quarterbacks. Keith Downing was our captain of that year, I believe, that 97 season. But with that said, it kind of goes back to the staff. I got to hand it to Coach Rogers and Coach DeLeon and the staff that we had at the time on the offensive side. We were able to turn it around pretty quick. They were able to change some things up. I believe we actually even came out in a bunch of different sets going into the rest of the year, coming off the out of the huddle. And again, it kind of goes back to diversifying on what we had. We always knew we had great defense at the time. We had Don Darius, Bucky Jones, and those kids obviously could fly around. Keith Bullock, unbelievable players, first-round draft picks. And we knew if we could turn around the offense, we could be a pretty damn good team, which we were. So after you get that first win, coming off 1-3, and then you get another win, it's like, okay, we can turn this around. And we have Clemson coming in the Dome, I believe, this year in 2 weeks.
We'll be going to Clemson. Yeah.
Going to Clemson in 2 weeks, and what a great opportunity. It's more of a neutral site game anymore. I know there's only a few fans allowed. So to have, you're not going to have 80, 90, 100,000 people in a stadium there. And we have always been very successful against Clemson. I think we had the defensive backs this year to kind of play with their system a little bit more. So we'll see if we can fly around and make some plays. And if you can get in the game, you never know. We've been very successful against Clemson over the last 3-4 years. We've given them a good run for their money, and I think we can get a win this week against Liberty and come back against Clemson. You never know what you can make of the season after that.
That coming here from Nate Trout this morning. Nate, I think it's important to note that from 1996 to 99, when you were a member of the Syracuse Orange, and you always will be, but on the field with the team in those years and suiting up with the squad, Syracuse is ranked in the top 25 every single season. In 1996, 97, 98, 99, there was one of your seasons where I believe it was the 1998 season. You were ranked every week except for one, which was the week when you played Virginia Tech, and you actually defeated Virginia Tech at 28-26 on November 14th, 1998. So, when you look at this, your teams were strong. They were ranked in the nation's top 25 in 96, 97, 98, 99. In 1998, you got as high as being ranked number 11th in the nation. Fans, there's probably some people that would open kiss you on the mouth right now, Mr. Trout. You know what I mean? They wish for those days. So, what can you say about going through that and being respected around the country? And, holding on to that, not being a team that had one good year in 4, or a team that had, a moment or a flicker or was ranked in the preseason polls and then dropped off. You're a team that was ranked, stayed ranked, rose in the rankings, got back into the rankings when you fell out of them. There's something to be said about that.
Yeah, and I think, the program at the time had a lot of momentum. And I think people underestimate how difficult it is to win at Syracuse. I was fortunate to go to school up there, but I never saw snow before. And fortunately, we had a lot of kids from Florida at the time, and I don't know how many are on the roster right now from Florida. But again, it goes back to credit Coach P, Coach Mack, the guys that built the program and learned how to win at Syracuse. If you look, in my opinion, Coach P was a very disciplined, a very, a disciplinarian coach, very suit and tie. And I'm not saying that translates to today's game, but I know Coach Marone was able to turn the program around after G-Rob left, or Coach Robinson left, and he was the same as Coach P. So I don't know if that's the system, and I don't know Coach Babers' system at all. I do like the way Coach Babers coaches, but I think that we were just fortunate to have, one, a great quarterback. He ended up being okay, at his time there. But also, we had some great leaders on that team. And leadership on a team can go a long way. The Donovan Darius what an unbelievable man he is. What an unbelievable leader he was at the time of that team. And that cannot go unnoticed. The kids that we had, or the men we had that were leaders, and the coaches that we had that knew how to win at Syracuse.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You had that. You had it from the staff. You had it from the players. You had it all the way through. That leadership was running through the veins of Syracuse at the time. I do want to make mention here, you said you didn't know how many players were from Florida now. I believe there's 17 players from Florida on the current roster for Syracuse. Those players, just kind of run down the line here for the fun of it. Sherrod Johnson, a wide receiver from Miami, is on the team. You have Anthony Quealy, a wide receiver from Orlando, that's also there from Cocoa. You have Isaiah Jones, a wide receiver on the team as well. I had some family that used to live in Cocoa. From Belle Glade, you have wide receiver Javonte Williams is on the roster for Syracuse. Markenzie Pierre, a running back that we'll probably see more of out there because of some switching around and whatnot. He's from Kissimmee, where I used to live when I was down in Florida. Rex is from Tampa, as we had mentioned before, at quarterback. We also have, a few other players. Mikel Jones, linebacker, is from Miami, Florida IMG Academy. Down there is where he was most recently. West Palm Beach, Ishmael Goulbourne, linebacker, redshirt freshman. Went to Dwyer. From Miramar, we have McKinley Williams, who's a redshirt senior on the defensive line, who's been there for a while. From Pahokee, Florida, we have Lattery Kinsler, who is a freshman defensive lineman who's on the squad. From Hollywood, we have Jason Munoz, who's a redshirt freshman, went to St. Thomas Aquinas. Also on the roster from Florida, from Plantation, Florida, we have Adrian Cole, a DB, who is a redshirt freshman. From West Perrine, Florida, we have Neil Nunn, a DB who's a redshirt freshman. From Miami, Rob Hanna, who got his first interception of the season when they played up against Georgia Tech, first interception of his career in college. Cam Jonas, who made a big play this past week in the loss to Duke, from West Palm Beach, Florida, at the defensive back position, and that is it. So those are the guys that are hailing from down in the Sunshine State where you are. So there is some Florida representation on the team right now, which isn't bad to see. I would like to see Syracuse pull in some of these local guys, which they've done a absolutely horrific job at doing, and I think that's because they really don't care to. All signs point to they're not really trying. Talking to these players, the Stevie Scotts, who went to Indiana, who told me he doesn't talk about Syracuse because Syracuse never talked to him or didn't talk to him that much. One kid who's at CNS right now, Mike Washington Jr., another running back, and Central New York has had plenty of running backs, and the overwhelming majority of the very talented ones have not stayed home because they haven't been recruited by home. Mike Washington's going to Buffalo, and then Servassier Dennis, who he played a lot of different positions at CBA, played quarterback at one time. He's a big old linebacker now, and he was just voted the ACC Linebacker of the Week. 11 total tackles in his first career starts. He had 4.5 tackles for a loss in one game, which leads the ACC and is tied to lead the entire nation, and he went to Pittsburgh. So there's something to be said about that because, you had Coach P, and Coach P cared about recruiting the local kids, and I can tell you, Nate, that the local kids are not coming to Syracuse, and it's not because they hate Syracuse, and it's not because they don't believe in Syracuse. They're not being recruited by the current staff, and if they are being talked to by them, it's not going much of anywhere, and it's not turning into offers. Are you shocked by that? Are you confused by that? I know that you're a Florida guy, but your team had a coach that cared about the local community. Dino Babers, I respect him, but at the same time, I do question why he doesn't keep local kids local.
Yeah, I think it's hard to speak on the behalf of all that. I know we lost some big recruits at the time. I can't remember all their names when I was there. You read in all the local papers and things like that. So it's not as easy as it may be looking outside in to keep them there. With that said, I don't know Coach Babers well enough. I do respect him as a coach. And, again, it's not an easy place to win. It's not an easy place to attract kids. We do have a great tradition. And if anything was to ever happen with the staff there, I hope that they look and bring in a Syracuse guy, somebody that recruits the Northeast like Coach P did, like Coach Maroon did. And, Coach P had a lot of ties to Connecticut. We had a lot of kids from Connecticut, a lot of kids from New York, Rochester area, and a lot of kids from Massachusetts. And we always kind of did well in the Northeast recruiting. But, it's not as easy as it may seem to keep kids local. I think a lot of colleges struggle with that because a lot of kids want to get out of town and go somewhere else. But, if you can capture one or two of those every year, there are some great players in Central New York for sure. And, not just there, but in the Rochester area, we have some great players from there. That's where I learned how to eat garbage plates. So, yeah. With that said, I think it's hard to speak on the behalf of the program when you're saying that they're losing local kids because I don't know the surrounding areas around it.
And I think the hardest thing to look at here is when you look at the actual roster and you see some New Yorks on here. It's not what you think it is. because Eric Coley, who's a scholarship player, it says manliest, but he is the son of one of the, he's a stepson of one of the coaches, and he transferred into manliest from the Midwest, so it's not local. You see Skinny Atlas and some of these other things, and they're not scholarship players, so they really only have one player, and not from Central New York. They really only have one player on the current roster that's scholarships, that you can say, okay, this guy's from upstate New York, and they went out and they recruited him and they got him. There's only one player that can match that on this list, which is sad. And I mean, for me, it's heartbreaking to see this because I know a lot of these kids, but there's only one guy, and that's Stephen Mahar Jr., who's a freshman tight end from Rochester from the Aquinas Institute. Outside of that, and he wears number 88. Outside of that, there is not a single player scholarship from upstate New York, which is vastly different from what you had when you were at Syracuse. And I know you said you can't speak to Dino, but you could speak to Paul Pasqualoni, and Paul loves this community, loved this community then, he loves it now. He lives in the Northeast, he's retired in the Northeast, and when he was at Boston College with Steve Adazio, he recruited here. When he was at UConn, he recruited here. That's just what he's done.
Yeah, but Coach P was a Northeast guy, right? He was a Penn State guy, and I will say with Coach P, he did love that community. But what people got to remember about him is he worked tirelessly. Yeah. I hate to say this, I'll be coming home from the bars in the morning, and Coach P's at the field house watching film. Yeah. People don't sometimes understand how many hours these coaches put in. But with that said, Coach P was a hard-nosed, blue-collar, Northeast guy. He understood it. He understood how to recruit there, and his staff did as well. If you look at his staff, most of them, a lot of them were from Connecticut that really understood that area. Coach Adazio was at Coach P's old high school. Coach De Leon came from Connecticut. Coach Rippon came from Connecticut. A lot of those guys knew how to recruit the Northeast, and I think, I've never had a conversation with Coach P about it or the coach staff, but we had a lot of kids from the Northeast, as well as New York on that team, the teams that I had. And we also had a lot of kids from Florida as well. And those seem to be kind of the two hotbeds that they really looked at when they were up there.
Yeah, and, I do agree with you that if something were to happen, that Syracuse needs to get somebody who loves this community, cares about this community, is enriched by this community. Listen, these coaches recently, they're 4-8 seasons, 5-7 seasons. So when they say, hey, you can't take somebody local who doesn't have a big name because they're only going to win like 3 or 4 games, and it's like, okay, well, that's what you're winning now. I'd rather have a local person who's grown up here and gone through it. I'd rather give somebody their first opportunity because at this point, where could you go? You know what I mean? It's like, where can you go from Greg Robinson's 1-win seasons and 3-win seasons? Where can you go from the consistency at 4? Syracuse is more likely to go 4-8 than they are to go 10-3, and that's the frustration. So if you have a local guy and it takes a couple of years of 4-8s to get with it, but he's recruiting local, he knows the area, he bleeds it, he understands it. The mud that I played in as a kid is the mud that he plays in and his kids play in, then that says something. And I know that we're speaking about something that, may or may not happen, right now, but I would be welcome to seeing somebody that loves this area and would do anything for this area. And I think the closest that Syracuse came to it in recent history was Scott Schaefer. He didn't come from here. He and I know that the wins didn't show it on the field, but Scott is somebody who would have stayed here for like 25 years. This man bought a house. This man, had his daughter going to high school here. His son was playing at Ithaca College at quarterback. Like, they got ingrained in the community. You saw him at Wegmans and you said hello, he'd stop and talk to you and, hey, how you doing, and this and that. Him and I have a terrific relationship, and we had that over time. And I was talking to some of his staff this week, actually, that was here at Syracuse, and some of them have been on the show, and some of them will be on the show in the coming days. He said, that when I look back on that, the one thing that I can tell you, beyond any doubt in my mind, is that staff, the way that they recruited, guys wanted to run through a wall for them. They would do anything for them. And, even though the school was going 4-8, when I tell you that he was recruiting kids that were like game changers in the program, that's what he was doing. The 10-3 season that Syracuse had, you can thank Schaefer and his coaching staff for that. So, it's not that the coaching staff didn't have to do something here and teach it, but those who recruited them, all those guys were Schaefer, Tim Lester, Jake Moreland, Bobby Acosta, DeAndre Smith, Joe Adam and company. So, to me, I think that that's one of the things is that, people will never really see truly what I got to see. And on the recruiting trail, they love those coaches. That's why Tim Lester is successful at Western Michigan. That's why Joe Adam has had a long tenure at St. Anselm. That's why DeAndre Smith is now the running backs coach at Texas Tech. That's why Bobby Acosta is moving up. There's reasons why these guys are doing what they're doing. That's the reason why Scott Schaefer came back here with the Middle Tennessee State defense and beat Syracuse. There's something to be said about the way that they recruit, the trust that they build, and the relationships that they have, that you can't put any money on that. And, I think that was the last time that I really saw somebody really fall in love with this place, because Scott's not from Syracuse, but if you asked me in like a blind test if he was, I would have said he was, because he really deeply loved the community. And I think that has to be apparent. Either Dino has to learn how to love the community, or somebody else that comes along is going to have to love this community.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I've always been a big fan of colleges and high schools. You kind of hire within, or somebody that respects and understands the tradition that the program is built. And I'm not saying Dino has done that or not done that. I do like Dino as a coach. I like his personality, and I'm not encouraging him not to be there. I like the AD a lot. I still love the program regardless who's there. But if they do decide to do something different, well, first of all, hopefully the team can turn it around, which they can. It's still very early in the season. But I agree with you on that sense. Somebody that's passionate about the community in the Northeast and can recruit those areas and really keep those hard-nosed kids. Like you said, the kids that will run through a wall for you. And Coach Marone had that at the time, and then Coach Schaefer took over. And, I know Dino's got a lot of respect from a lot of the players as well. So hopefully we can turn this around. But I know I can only speak for when I was there and Coach P. Coach P, again, was a hard-nosed coach. You wore a suit and tie every game. You were clean cut. And I'm not saying that transfers to today's game, but it does teach you a lot of discipline. And, our teams played hard. And you can't take that away from anything that we had when we were there.
No, that coming from Nate Trout here, Syracuse Orange Football, kicker alum from 1996 to 1999. Some of those glory days that Syracuse fans lean back to and look to with things going on currently. And that's the thing, too, is I respect Dino. I appreciate our relationship. I've had a good relationship with him. I had a working relationship with Doug Marone, with Scott Schaefer, with Dino. I would just love for Dino to get in a car with me for a day, get up real early in the morning, butt crack of dawn, go get myself, we'll go to Cafe Kubal, we'll get something to drink, we'll get ready to go. He'll get his coffee, I'll get my chai, and I just want to take him to all the I want to go around all of Central New York, go to Rochester, go to Buffalo, go to Binghamton, go to Maine Endwell and Union Endicott, the area where Chandler Jones and Arthur Jones came from. I would love it if he would entertain a day in the car with me, just going, meeting the kids, and meeting the coaches. That would mean the world to me. And that's a humbling experience for him. That's a kind of, maybe it's not working experience for him, but you know what? It pays off dividends to sometimes take a step back and see what's really going on. And I can tell you that I'm not perfect, Mr. Trout. And I've had to take many times in my life, including during Corona, where I've had to take a giant step back, take a look at the big picture, see what's not working, move some pieces around, get rid of some pieces, bring some pieces in, and move forward. So it would behoove him to entertain the thought that if he is going to stick around and he wants to be here, that we need to open up to this community, see this community, and I would be more than happy to take him to the coaches and the families that I know.
Yeah, no, I mean, Maybe he'll take you up on that.
Hey, I'll tell you, he should. I play good music in the car, and him and I are movie buffs, so we definitely, would have something to talk about and something to do, and we have a good relationship already, and we joke around and whatnot, so, I would like the opportunity. So, Dino, if you're listening or watching, that offer is on the table, and it's not an exploding offer. It's available for as long as you're here. With that being said, Mr. Trout, I thank you so much. I love your positivity. We got to stay positive. Syracuse can turn this around. These kids are fighting hard. I know people are frustrated. I know that constructively I have to look at the stats and criticize and go over some things, but at the end of the day, more than any stat is going to tell you, I respect these kids. I love these kids. I appreciate them. I have spent a lot of time with them and in their recruitment, and I get to know these kids for years, and and then they become people like yourself, where it's like you get to know them, and then after they're done playing, you're still talking with them. So I would say to everybody out there, support the kids, love the kids, understand they're working hard, and adversity creates the best of us. So with that being said, Nate, I appreciate it. I never know how to adequately say goodbye on the show because I always respect our conversations, but I definitely look forward to talking with you soon. And my butt needs to get down to Disney, so Lord knows, hopefully, maybe I'll get to see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. You're more than welcome to come to Florida.
All right, brother. Well, listen, take care of yourself and be safe. My best to your family and my best to your team down there and my best to you. And I look forward to catching up with you in just a little bit.
All right. Thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate being on.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
See ya. That coming from Nate Trout once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets life. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, my guy Duds is going to be on the show, hanging out with us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Adam Dudzinski, he is a state champion. First time we've ever seen West Genesee Wildcats boys basketball win a state championship. I was there in Binghamton, and Duds was on the court with his brothers doing his thing. Not only is he a state champion, God willing, he'll have one more season at West Genny, and he will have a prep school year, and he is reclassified to 2022. We'll talk about all of that decision, one more year at West Genny, navigating coronavirus, learning how to go through what's going on right now, the recruiting trail, the offers that he has, and the schools that he's talking to. So much is coming up with Duds that I can never wait to have him on the show. I always love having him on the show, but this is going to be a great one, and I can't wait to share it with you after this.
Avicoli's Restaurant, located right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road, is proud to be your local neighbor, growing with you for over 20 years. We're open 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, and drinks. For takeout, delivery, or catering, call us at 315-622-5100. When you order online and use our promo code ABS10, you will save 10% on your online purchase at myavicolis.com. And make sure to join us monthly for our live on-site broadcasts centered around Liverpool athletics. Avicoli's, your local, trusted neighbor right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road.
Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground. Trapper's Pizza Pub, located on 5950 Butternut Drive in East Syracuse. Right off of Bridge Street is your local community supporter right around the corner. Join us on site at Trapper's Pizza Pub for our live monthly broadcast supporting Central New York student athletes and their sports programs. Call 315-438-4444 for more information. And find us on Facebook and Instagram at Trapper's Pizza Pub. Trapper's Pizza Pub, your local community supporter right around the corner.